Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It's Clint coming to you from the Die Hard MMA podcast and odds.com. This is the post weigh-in recap where I go over all the things I saw at the weigh-ins, the face-offs, and we talk about any final adjustments that we might make for our betting strategy for tomorrow. Just so you all have a disclaimer right off the top. If you're afraid to tail me on every single one of my bets, this is probably not the week to be cherry picking. I am taking a bunch of dogs that I think are live, and the chances are I'm probably going to go 2-2 or maybe 1-3, something along those lines, but I'm taking big swings, so all we need is one or two of them to cash to have a profitable night. So don't be shocked if I don't have a stellar performance on Saturday. We are taking some risks this week. The first fight of the night, we have Carlos Philippe, the UFC newcomer, taking on Sergey Spivak. Philippe is a big old boy. He carries a whole bunch of extra weight on him. He is a classic oversized heavyweight, except he's short. He's like Mark Hunt or Tai Tuivasa. Got all the weight around the gut, really heavy, but looks like maybe, I don't want to say maybe he could make 205. He probably doesn't have the right body type for that, but he's carrying a lot of extra flab. Sergey Spivak on the other side of this thing, he came in at 240. He looks like he added on a bunch of muscle. Now, I know I'm scared he's the Molly McCann of this week because this fight opened up at a pick'em. Sergey's all the way down to minus 175. Now, I leaned to Sergey myself, and I almost pulled the trigger, but we saw what happened last week with Molly. We beat a massive market line movement, and it did not matter. So this is one that it's a sloppy heavyweight fight, and when you've got low-level heavyweights, I always tend to lean with the dog just because there's value. Any one punch could knock a guy out. So at this stage, I think it's dog or pass. There's no way I'm laying minus 175 on Spivak. He hasn't proven to be that level, even though it looks like he has taken this camp seriously and coming in hot here. Spivak looked stone cold at the weigh-ins. Big boy was cocky. He came in and tried to juke him to get a flinch out of Spivak. It was interesting. I'm going to be very curious to see how this one goes down. I do expect Spivak to get the win, but from a betting perspective, it's dog or pass, so I am completely staying off it. Hamos versus Armin Taryukian, one of the most exciting fights on the card, in my opinion. Taryukian is a big-time prospect here, and Hamos is a very respected UFC vet at this point. Both men extremely well-muscled, extremely confident. They both hit 176. Hamos is jacked to all hell, and it was a really intense face-off. This is one where they had to be separated. Dana White wasn't quite ready for that with the second fight there on the card, but they went nose-to-nose, pressed their foreheads together. This one should be really fun. I was taking a look at potentially betting Hamos prior to my last couple days this week doing some study. I really thought I might roll the dice on him as a dog. However, one thing that I've noticed is since we've been over on Fight Island, these judges, these referees, they're relying on volume. It's something that I've noticed when you've got a fight, one guy lands big bombs, but is landing less attacks. The other man who is having the more volume, who is outlanding his opponent, think Max Holloway versus Volkanovski, think Tim Elliott versus Ryan Benoit. Whoever is landing more often, even if they're not devastating blows, that's who these officials are nodding to. And I think with the style of Hamos, where he sits back and he waits and he reloads and he looks for big power counters, if he doesn't land a big enough bomb to get Taryukian out of there, I think he's just going to get picked apart for the 15 minutes, and I think Taryukian's going to coast his way to an easy decision. So there is the threat of Davi. He's a threat on the ground. He's a threat on the feet, so he could definitely finish this fight. But I think if Taryukian plays his cards right, he just grinds out a win here. Malcolm Gordon seemed really excited, taking on Amir Al-Bazi. This is a later slotted fight. It came in a little after I had already done all my preparation, so I didn't look too much into either of these two fighters. So unfortunately, it's not one that I have a breakdown for you from a betting perspective or from a stylistic matchup. I know I got a lot of shit in the previous video for not breaking down fights, but first off, let me just give you a little information here. If you're new to fights, fighters drop out all the time. It happens on every single event. Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets sick, somebody has a bad weight cut, and when that happens, they pull the fight altogether, or they shove in a new opponent, and you've got to have time to watch the tape, look up the stats, dig into that person, see what they're good at. And if they do that right before we do our videos and go live here on Odds HQ, I'm sorry, we just don't have the time or the ability to actually do that research. We keep a real tight schedule here to make sure you guys are getting the best betting content we possibly can provide. So sometimes we aren't able to get on top of those late notice replacements, and we do apologize for that, but that's the reality of MMA. You know, in basketball, if you've got the Bulls taking on the Celtics, it doesn't matter who gets sick. It doesn't matter who's sitting out for this game. That game is still happening. You still know the team. You still have those numbers. You know who they'll sub in instead. In MMA, it's not like that. So bear with us. Last week we had a bunch of them, not so many this week, but this is one of them that we just don't have any comments for at this point in time. Brett Johns taking on Montel Jackson. Now, I've got a shot on the dog here at Brett Johns. He came in at 136, made weight. He was immediately doing this interesting like finger gesture on the scale, looked in good shape, looked confident. I'm not sure what the gesture was signifying, but I got the confidence oozing from him. I got the point of it, basically. He's ready to go here for this fight. Montel Jackson made weight, 136. This dude is massive. He looks like he belongs 2 weight classes up. He's just so freaking tall, but he's very, very skinny. That's something that we do need to, keep in mind. He's not a thick, big guy. He's just extremely long, extremely tall. So my boy Johns will be at a size disadvantage, but not as much as I expected. When they faced off, Johns was surprisingly sized well with Jackson. Jackson is huge. He's absolutely massive. But my boy Johns wasn't as small as I thought he was going to be. So I still like that spot. I'm hoping for the upset. Montel Jackson tends to slow down later in the fight. Johns doesn't. So I'm thinking Johns can try and steal rounds 2 and 3 and get this decision, or possibly a round 3 finish when Montel Jackson is gassed out. Joseph Duffy taking on Joel Alvarez. We've just got some giants on this card, folks. Just absolutely massive people for the divisions they're fighting in. Duffy is a big guy for 155. He made 155 and a half, so he needed that extra little half pound. No biggie. He seemed a little soft on the scale, though. That's something that he was not as... I said it in my initial breakdown of this fight. I don't know how locked in he is. I think he may be contemplating retirement. He's a new father. He doesn't seem to be extra motivated by his children, which, as a dad, I can say that that's something I think is a red flag. Because when my daughter was born, I have all this extra motivation to make sure I'm bringing home the bacon, doing everything I can to put food on the table. And if he's not feeling that, I don't know what that means. Maybe he's just a harder man than I am, but we look at guys like Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He had a son and he went on a title run. He tried to make it to the pinnacle of the sport. Like, not everybody goes that hard, obviously, but everybody usually finds some motivation in the birth of their children, and him not is interesting to me. Joel Alvarez on the flip side of this thing, he made 156. He is huge. This is another guy that's just huge for the division, and he looked very full of energy. He's always ripped up, he's always shredded, in great shape, and he was kind of bouncing around, making movements. Like, I really like what I saw from Joel Alvarez. This is another big dog that I am rolling the dice on. At 3-1, when your opponent has been well on record contemplating hanging it up and not looked good in his last couple fights, I will take this shot here. So I am all about this one. And moving on. Grant Dawson taking on Niramani. This apparently is a catchweight fight. Both these guys came in at 150. I did not realize that it was a catchweight, so that was surprising to me. They both looked in decent shape. However, Grant Dawson looked a little low energy for me. That's something I kind of keep an eye out for. Not enough for me to really dig too deep into that. Niramani is a plus 190 dog. That, again, is another side that I was potentially taking a look at. I feel like this line is a little bit wide, but I don't feel uber confident on that one. Both these guys are good grapplers. Niramani's got some big hands. Like, we'll see what happens, but Nad looked pumped up. At the face-offs, he definitely seemed to one that had the energy advantage. Roman Doldiz coming in new to the UFC, taking on Kad DC Bragimov, and this is such an interesting spot to me. Both these guys made 206. Roman Doldiz, big hairy monster, man. This guy, he's got a rug on his chest. Didn't look as puffed up as his previous fights. So that's something that we know at this point, is that he was a former kickboxer and he got popped by USADA. So he legitimately is fighting for the first time off PEDs right now. And that, to me, is a huge red flag. I don't know if I can bet on Kadis Ibragimov, though, but I like what I saw at the scales. He was fine. He was excited. He was amped up. He was flexing on his opponent. And then when they went nose to nose, he went crazy eyes on him. I've never seen Kadis do that. He got up in his face and he was like... he was going for it. So Kadis knows that he's on the chopping block on this fight. He knows that he has to get a win here. However, he's fighting a guy that has serious power, serious hands, solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Roman is a great prospect. My only concern is a lot of fighters that first fight off their performance-enhancing drugs just don't look as good. So what I'm tempted to do on this one is look at an over, because Cottis, he's tough. He's tough. He's durable. I talked about this on the Total Madness show. And Roman, if this guy doesn't one-shot KO you, he slows down. He relies on that big, heavy power and explosion. And if he doesn't have that because he's off the PEDs, I don't think he's going to be able to put Cottis away. This one might be going to the judges' scorecards, and Cottis might be able to squeak out a decision win here. So I may be adding the over on this one. That's one I've been looking at the last couple of days, and I'm still very interested in, especially seeing how pumped up Cottis was. I don't think he can finish Roman, but that gives me faith that this will be a close back and forth fight enough that they can maybe get to the card. So we'll see on that one. Put a little pin in that one. I'm still considering it. Alexander Pantoja taking on Askarov. Maybe the sleeper fight of the card, folks. I am so pumped for this fight. Alexander Pantoja weighed in first. Askarov came in second. These boys are both ready to go. Absolutely both of them on point, in shape. Both of them ripped up, ready to go. And then when they went for the face-off, it was another intense nose-to-nose stare down. My boy Askarov was not backing down. This is one of those ones where he was the one, based on the stage, that had to turn and walk away first, and he refused to. They were talking to each other. I mean, this is going to be an intense fight. I love this fight. I love this spot. I took the shot on Askarov at plus 170. Couldn't be happier. I think this is going to be close. I think it's going to be scrambly. I think it's going to mostly take place on the ground. And Askarov hasn't showed us a lot from his striking, but it's incredibly underrated. So I think this will be a very, very competitive fight. Ariane Lipski taking on Luann Carolina, and Lipski immediately appeared confident to me. She stepped up on the scale. She looked like she was ready to go. She's a bit thicker than we usually see her. I think she put some muscle on. Luann Carolina, same thing. Extremely confident, stepped on the scale, flexed immediately. I mean, both of these women are ready to go. And when they got into each other's faces for the stare down, it was all excitement. Like it was that good stare down where you know both fighters are extremely confident, but they also know they're going to be in for it. So both these women are geared up and ready for this one and just excited for the fight to take place. I'm on Ariane Lipski. I got in on it early, and honestly, I'm kind of a little scared on this one. This makes me think back to last week, kind of like Molly McCann, where her opponent Santos just showed up out of nowhere and was a completely different monster from anything we'd ever seen before. I'm a little scared that might happen here with Luana. However, luckily that line is not blowing out of proportion, so I'm not afraid of the massive piles of public money coming in on the same side as me yet. And this is one where people talk about betting a fighter based on their looks and things like that. Trust me, I'm not sold on a fighter just because they're pretty. And even though Ariane Lipski is going to get some public backing because she's the prettier of the two, my policy is bet the ugly one. I mean, if you've got two women in MMA, the one that's rougher, the one that's a little rough around the edges, she's probably the real fighter of the two. Now, I'm not saying that Luana is ugly by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying if there's two women and one of them is a little rougher than the other one, usually she's the one who's a bit more sold on it. Now, not always, obviously. These days now the MMA is getting bigger, women's MMA is getting better. We're going to see a lot more of these young, pretty prospects that are actually very skilled, very talented. We saw that with Amanda Ribas in her last fight, so that's not necessarily going to hold true. But up until this age, it was very true. The pretty ones that got brought in to be Instagram models got their asses kicked. So our next fight, Mark Diakiese, Rafael Fiziev. I am so pumped for this one. Huge fan of Mark Diakiese. I fully respect everything that Fiziev brings to the table. Both men looked great on the scales. When they faced off, Diakiese immediately showed off his reach. He did the arm thing where he was trying to keep his opponent at distance and kind of impose himself there. Fiziev kind of went funny with it. He jumped up on his tippy toes to kind of, make it seem like he wasn't so short. So that was fun. That was funny to watch. Really tough fight here. I mean, I've got to lean Diakiese. He's the favorite. I've leaned him all week, but I don't like how wide it is, and especially with my read on the judges where I think volume is going to be what they grade. Fiziev's the busier of the two, so unless Diakiese puts him down or has changed his style up so he's going to score more throughout this fight, he's in danger of having this one slip away in a dirty 3-round decision. Jack Hermansson taking on Kelvin Gastelum, our co-main event. Both men made 186, and both men looked in great shape. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum, it's hard to say he looks in great shape, but he looked how he always looks. His arms are in great shape, but he carries that flab around his midsection. I still stand by it. I think he needs to go back down to 170, but hey, here we are. Jack Hermansson was having fun. He did the Arnold flex with it when he got up there, so he seems confident, in good spirits. And when they faced off, really just the size of Jack Hermansson. That's what I've leaned to this entire time. I think Kelvin Gastelum is the better fighter, the more skilled, well-rounded fighter. However, Hermansson's got that path to victory on the mat, and he's got the size that I think it's going to cause problems for Kelvin Gastelum. I have not pulled the trigger. This is probably a fireball and popcorn fight, folks. I think I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one. But if I had to pick, I think I would go ahead and still side with Hermansson here just because of that size advantage. Main event time. Here's where it gets fun. Deiveson Figueiredo makes weight. I mean, that's the big story here. His last time he missed weight, he came in over and it was a bit of a problem. He looked as jacked as ever. He looked great. I bet Joseph Benavidez, and I'm a little nervous. Figueiredo looked excellent on the scales. He looked absolutely incredible. Didn't look like he wanted to settle down. He was ready to flex, ready to go. However, the only thing I guess I got to kind of comment on is the guy doing the weigh-ins. He didn't let the scales settle. I think that was one where it was like, it was close. So then he like clicked the weight thing off so that we could go ahead and have our main event here. He didn't look like he wanted it to land on 125 and a half and have the main event be in any kind of jeopardy. So that was funny. That was interesting, but I'm glad we've got the fight. Joe Benavidez, business as usual. He got on the scales. He was very professional, didn't show off at all, which very almost concerning to me. So in the interview that came out recently, Joe Benavidez was talking about wanting to hurt Deiveson Figueiredo, talking about how he didn't like him at all, and he wanted to make him feel the way that he had felt for some time, disappointment, scared, concussions, like that's what Joe was talking about. So I really expected him to be intense here and keep that same energy. However, what we got was a very flaccid Joe Benavidez. We got a energy dump Joseph Benavidez, and that scares me as a Joe backer. I did bet him. I beat the line move, but now, predictably, after Figueiredo made weight, money is coming back in on it the other way. So if you missed that plus 190 on Joe Benavidez, I think it's going to get back there because everyone saw what we all saw. Figueiredo wins the battle of the scales. He looked much better on the scales. He looked better at the face-off. Joe was stoic. He stood there. He didn't budge. And Figueiredo was kind of rope-a-doping, rolling his shoulders and his head, like trying to get some kind of a move or reaction. And this is tough for me because I'm not sure if I like that or not. I mean, I do like the stone-cold killer approach to a fighter. I do like that, Figueiredo potentially was trying to mess with Joe and Joe didn't seem affected by it. But at the same time, I didn't like the complete lack of energy. With him being as amped up, as angry, the comments that he made as he has been, I wanted to see a little something. I wanted to see a little spark, a little fire. Now, I'm sure it'll be there at the fights tomorrow. But the fact that right now he looks like he's not ready to go, that concerns me. It concerns me a lot. But hey, like I always say, that bet is locked in. I've already made it. It's your choice whether or not you want to tail and roll with me. If you go the other way, I wish you the best of luck. So we've got an absolute banger of a card tomorrow, folks. Good luck on all of your action. And hey, let's try to make that cash as always. Let's roll, everybody. Have a great day.